Garrett Gravesen.
We're here.
Welcome, man.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot to talk about.
We do.
So before we dive in,
Okay.
for anyone listening, pull out your phone.
Okay.
Go to Instagram. You don't need
Oh,
to. You don't have to go to the other room. Go to GG Worldwide and just check out Garrett's life, because we're gonna dig into the highlight reel that is GG Worldwide, but we're also gonna get behind the veil today.
Okay.
So
Okay.
really excited for that. When people ask you what you do,
Right.
maybe they haven't seen you on Instagram, maybe they haven't read your book, listened to you speak, been involved with one of your companies. What do you tell them? How do you answer that question?
Yeah, so I've always loved leadership and service. So it's always been a part of my life from the very beginning and each kind of venture I've had. But currently, right now, have a leadership consulting firm. Co-founded it. It's called Addo. Addo is the fancy Latin word for inspire. So if you end up on Jeopardy, know that. But no, so we have great clients like Chick-fil-A, Coca-Cola, the Atlanta Braves. We create leadership programs to really bring leadership to life in relevant ways that connect to both the people that work at the companies and the community at large by serving them in the best way possible.
Cool. And when you say leadership program, what does that mean? What's an example of a program?
Yeah. So for Chick-fil-A, they said, hey, we've got these core values that we've had for 70 years as we expand across the U.S. How do we continue to get people that believe in what we believe and have the same core values as what we do? So we helped create alongside Chick-fil-A Leader Academy. So we said, hey, what do you believe? What's your vision of the world? And they said, we love vision and values and teamwork, communication, innovation, and serving, paying it forward, this idea of servant leadership. So we said, all right, how do you make servant leadership cool and unique and different and in a way that's not just reading a book from 50 years ago or listening to a lecture, or as you probably know, there's a big divide between management and millennials. And as more millennials and young people go into the workforce, we're trying to say, hey, what is relevant to them? What does servant leadership look like to them? And so we help create the content, the videos, and the programs to make that come to life, get people excited about serving other people.
I mean, I've seen some of the videos from it. I've been kind of tangentially involved with some of the programming. It feels like a Tony Robbins event for kids.
Exactly.
I mean, it's really awesome stuff. And I know, having been a part of some of your organizations and being a friend for a long time, I know you're an incredible leader. I know you're a great communicator and all those things. But for those, again, that don't know who you are, what qualifies you to build leadership programs? Why did you and your business partner, Kevin Scott, build this company and put your flag and mount leadership?
Yeah. Well, it starts with not knowing what you're doing, right? Yeah. So I went to the University of Georgia, became student body president. Probably like a lot of people out there, want to be president of the United States one day. Quickly realized that is not for me. And then right before graduating, I'd never been out of the country, never had a passport. Always wanted to go. We didn't grow up with much money. So if you take a globe, put your finger on Atlanta, where we live, spin it halfway around the world, other side, as far as a plane will fly is Hong Kong. So that's the first place I ever went. So China was my first country.
0 to 100.
0 to 100 real fast. And went there, took a job doing investment banking. Realized I didn't want to be a super rich 18 hours a day business guy. Took all the money that I had after working 18 hours a day, 6.5 days a week, and said, what is the complete opposite of that? If I were to be the true version of me, who would I be and what would I do? So I called mom and dad and said, I hope you're sitting down. They're like, oh God, Garrett, what have you done this time? And I said, I'm quitting the job. I did investment banking for Merrill Lynch. And I took all my money and I said, I want to take a year and serve other people. And so instead of coming home and serving, I did the most logical thing ever. I said, I would love to go to Africa, but I only know 2 things. I know there's Kenya because there's safaris, and there's South Africa because there's Nelson Mandela. This is how much I knew. I was like, chances are I'm probably not going to meet Mandela. Probably could go on a safari. Yeah. Okay. But it ended up in Kenya, and the leadership kind of created or started then. So I got really excited, and we'll talk more into this, but served at an orphanage for a year. There's so much there. Came back and started a charity for kids with HIV and AIDS. And my leadership chops grew because I just always want to create a platform for people to serve. And that allowed people to serve others, specifically these children, serve and raise money for a cause greater than themselves. And then the University of Georgia said, hey, would you be willing to be a professor? I said, me, a professor? Of course. Can I teach leadership and service? They said, yes, in Africa. And so it gave me a chance to create a curriculum and be a leadership professor, adjunct through UGA, through a program called Global Lead. But again, it was all about leadership and service. And then some of the companies across Atlanta said, hey, there's this young, wily, kind of fun guy who seems to understand leadership and service for the next generation. And so Chick-fil-A came on board, Coca-Cola, the Braves, through the company I now work with Kevin Scott, our co-founder, called Addo. And again, Addo is just a way to inspire next generation leaders to live their best lives inside companies through curriculum and content and programs that we create.
Beautiful, man. And
Yeah.
How about those Spark Notes?
Hey!
There's a lot of stories packed into all of those.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to dig into is how we got connected, which
Sure.
is Hero for Children, which
Right.
whose branch was UJ Heroes.
Right.
So, I want to time travel a little bit here.
Okay.
For me, I joined UJ Heroes because I was forced to. I joined a fraternity,
Fair
and
enough.
they said you sign up for all 3 big philanthropies on campus.
Sure.
You pay your $10. You get your name on the registry. You get a T-shirt, and fraternities wanted to do that so that they could say, hey, we have 100% participation
Fair
for
enough.
all of our brothers in philanthropies on campus.
Fair enough.
So it was like checking a box, right? And then I go to an event, and I think one of the first events I went to was towards the end of pledgeship, which was the Hero Olympics.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, this is not just checking a box. This is amazing. Like it's a full day. It's like a field day. Big inflatable slides and kids running around doing all kinds of like water balloon fights and races, and
Yeah.
it's just so much fun. Yeah. And it benefits these kids that that you should talk about, not me, but it benefits these kids that I just developed such a warm spot in my heart for. Yeah. And it led me to want to get more involved in the organization, to work my way up into a leadership position, which is how we ultimately met. So before we talk about us meeting, do you want to talk about why you started Hero, that moment, that creation moment where you're like, this is worth giving a chunk of my life to?
Right. So I always say that in life you're going to come down to a few key pivotal moments where you can choose courage or comfort, right? Courage or comfort. And in those moments, what are you going to do? So I land in Africa and I don't know what I'm doing. I go to an orphanage that I find out about. I walk in and I don't know how I'm going to help or serve or give back, or if I'm even going to be needed, to be honest. And I go and there are 80 little kids. No moms, no dads, no nothing. My name's Garrett, last name's Gravesen. They can't pronounce Garrett. They can't say Gravesen. I'm like, snaked. I'm like, all right. I was like, well, call me Gigi. Like, that's at least easy enough. So all these little kids, Gigi. And as you probably know, or with volunteering, if you've ever served or given back, there's always one kid, one moment. There's this one opportunity, right? And there was this 10-year-old little boy. His name was Martin. He had a big orange shirt as bright as you can imagine. Pants were like 3 sizes too big. His belt loop was all the way the very last one to keep his pants on. And he just hung around me the entire day. And we played on the monkey bar and the swing set in the sandbox. And kind of as I'm leaving, looks me straight in the eye, grabs the bottom of my shoulder. And he goes, Gigi, everyone says they're going to be back. Will you really come back and see us? And I was like, in that moment, like, are you going to choose courage or are you going to choose comfort? You're going to walk away and kind of be like everyone else, or you're going to stick in and see what you can do here at this orphanage with these kids. And I decided to come back, gave the guy a little high five and a big bear hug, and me and Martin became kind of our buddies, not just for the summer, not just for a season, but I ended up staying an entire year at an orphanage in Kenya. Wow. And my heart was just like set on fire about this disease and these kids and this cause that I knew nothing about. And I think a lot of people say, oh, well, I want to make a difference. Timing's not right. I get it. I want to make a difference. I don't have any money. Neither did I. Like, I want to make a difference, but like, I don't know where to start. Either did I. But I came back and I said, you know what? Screw it all. Like Richard Branson, screw it, let's do it style, right? Like, I'm going to put myself so far out there, walk along the branch that it may break before I figure it out, but I'm going to try, burn the boats. Like, I'm not taking a job. I'm going to create a charity for kids with HIV and AIDS and their quality of life. So they get food, housing, and medicine, but what about friends and mentors and summer camps and Christmas presents and programs to make their life better? And I said, but if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to shy away from me or my personality. We're going to have one theme, and that theme is simply this. If it's not wow, it's not worth doing.
Which is totally going to be like a life mantra for me and for a lot of other people. It's
right.
Such an incredible way to live life.
And so I just said at the collegiate level, we're going to get thousands of people to volunteer, get involved, become mentors for these kids, raise money. But I always want to make it wow. I want to make it wow for the volunteers. I want to make it wow for the kids. I want the programs to be as wow as possible, because wow's not something these kids get. And sometimes in life, either do we. We're kind of told, oh, don't be too big, don't be too high, don't go too wow, don't be too crazy, like blend in, stand in, be part of the status quo. Heck no, not if we were going to. And because you don't know what you're doing, you end up being like a biggest, baddest version of yourself. So, been running Hero for a couple of years. Things were going well, raising money, getting people involved. But then in any organization, you kind of hit a stale point where you need innovation, you need new ideas. And typically it happens from the people that are not necessarily in the organization, but someone looking from the outside in.
Okay.
This is where Matt Thomas comes into the picture. And it crushes my soul, but that's what happened. You were an outsider placed inside the organization. You had big ideas. I'm going to go ahead and say wow ideas, but they weren't being channeled in the best way possible, because a lot of times there's going to be resistance from people within. Because when you come in and you want to do something different, and you want to do something wow, and I saw it firsthand with starting a charity for kids with HIV and AIDS, having zero experience. I wasn't a medical doctor. I didn't have a PhD. I didn't work at any of these hospitals. I was a man with a soul on fire that wanted to make a difference. And I wanted to instill that passion in everyone else. But eventually, things kind of become status quo. Things kind of become the same. And you need someone from the outside to come inside and help give that jolt of energy. And I don't know if you want to kick off this meeting, but I ended up coming up to Athens, and my life and yours changed.
Yeah. So the way I got onto the board of directors for Hero was I was a sophomore. I was living downtown, like, a few feet from over 100 bars and 2 square miles in downtown Athens at University of Georgia. It was the #1 party school in the nation that year.
Yep.
And I had just broken up with my girlfriend.
Okay.
And so my roommate was Chase Croft. He was a bartender downtown Athens, and he was on the board of directors for Hero.
Yeah.
So I was going out with Chase. I was trying to meet some new people and become friends with people. And he said, hey, you should really balance out this like partying side of life with like giving back. And we just had someone that dropped off the board that applied for the spot, did interviews, earned the spot. But now we need to fill him, and I think he'd be really good for the role. And I was like, well, I mean, I just like signed a piece of paper and got my T-shirt. Like, I don't really know what's going on here, but I'm happy to apply. And if you believe in it, like, I want to learn more about it, and I want to try it too. And so he introduced me to Elise Watley, who was the head, the executive director of UGA Heroes at the time. Had coffee with her. We became pretty fast friends.
Shocking.
And she was like, well, are you really going to consider this? Because we really need to fill this position. We have a lot of work to do. And I was like, I just broke up with my girlfriend. I have a lot of time on my hands. I'd love to give back. Like, let's do this. Right. And so I started learning more about Hero and like all the events that were coming up. And it just seemed like a lot. And a ton of like percentage nights at different restaurants and bars around town. A bunch of like, like bake sale kind of stuff, and so I was like, okay, cool. Like, let me wrap my head around all this. Let me understand how to talk about it, and then I'll dive all the way in. One of the first things that happened was the founder was coming in town and meeting with the board to kick off the year. Right. And every year, UGA Heroes was raising like $250,000, $300,000 to help fund Hero for Children, this parent organization that you started, and. So it was a big deal that you were coming, but I had no idea who you were. I didn't know your story. And so you walk in, we're all sitting around like this big table, and he has a question. What's going well? What can we get better at? And people start answering the question. They go all the way around. And in my mind, I'm just like, these people are just blowing smoke up this guy's ass. Like, everyone's like, hey, we're doing great, sunshine and rainbows, like all this stuff. And I'm like, yes, that's true. But he also asked for constructive criticism, and no one's given it. And it got around to me, and I was like, here's what I really think. And like, I'll let you take over from there.
So whether you're the official leader as in title or you're leading because you have influence, I think what people appreciate and like most is authenticity and honesty. Mm-hmm. So by title, yes. So I was coming to town. I genuinely wanted feedback. But what ends up happening is everyone kind of appeases the leader. And the leader or anyone in a relationship, in a business relationship or whatever, you just want honesty. And so I was just floored that, it's kind of like a little bit bullshit. I'm like, it's great, but it's like, but how are we going to get better? Because in this particular instance, we raise money to create programs, and programs change lives. Mm-hmm. So really, we're trying to change lives. That's our greater why. So being more honest creates an opportunity to create more money. Better programs change lives. Mm-hmm. So I'm asking and wanting this feedback. And you basically say, I got to be honest, I don't think what we're doing is that wow. And when someone says that, like earthquake, ripple effect, heart breaks, I'm like, Arr! Like I can see like the car slamming into the next one and creating a cascade effect. I'm like, oh my God, like as if like everything screeched, halted, and I think everyone just went dead silent.
And immediately I regret. Uh-oh.
Because you didn't know I was one of the guys started the organization. I didn't know who you were, but I was so appreciative that you were so honest. And you go, hey, I was like, we keep doing these small ideas, and percentage nights and bake sales and selling pizza downtown and working, doing these. They're great. But what's wow? And I go, you tell me. What's wow? And you go, well, there's an idea that, at some other places around the nation where you get people to like fight for what they believe in. Like what if you got people all across the campus, whether fraternity, sorority, first time people to literally step in a boxing ring and brawl for what they believe in. And the money could go to, and at that point, this meeting is done. Stop the meeting. This is a true story. I stopped the meeting and I said, thank you to everyone here. But this meeting is officially finished. I don't even know your name, outside with me right now. And I feel like from your perspective, you probably thought you were in trouble.
I totally did. That feeling when you're like, your heart jumps up in your throat or, your stomach drops, like the roller coaster, like right where you're tipping over the edge. Right. I was like, uh-oh. Like, I just got this board of directors position. Like, that's the shortest term anyone's ever served.
You're done.
And we go outside the room. You're like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And I was like, I don't really have plans. And he's like, wow, I want to hear more of your ideas. And you take me to Transmet, pizza place, still in Athens.
Good, still exists. Yeah,
right across from the Georgia Theater, and we have dinner and we talk. I get to know you better. I hear the actual story. I realize who you are. And you asked me directly about this boxing idea, and it had failed through the fraternity that I tried to do it through, with my big brother in that fraternity, the president, Michael Waldron, and I saw it as a much better fit through Hero, because Hero, the name is Hero. You can be a hero and literally fight for these kids, and so I wanted to do it as a fundraiser for them, and you were like, okay, so where are we doing it? And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe on campus somewhere, maybe, but what's the most wow thing that we could do? Right. And I was like, well, the Classic Center, that's where all the conferences are, and it's huge, but it's kind of corporate and what about the theater? And the Georgia Theater had burned down a year and a half prior, and it had just reopened. So
right.
Brand new, immaculate. It has all this history from the 30 years that it was open before, where the drive-by truckers were playing, and all these great Athens bands kind of came up there. Yeah. And now it reopened, and it was just amazing. And so I don't think either of us had been in there yet since it had been rebuilt. And you're like, let's go over.
Yeah.
and so leave it to Gigi to walk up to the front door and be like, oh, we're thinking about putting on an event here. We've been talking to whoever. And we just need to jump in real quick to look at the stage, make sure the dimensions are right. And however it happened, you talk our way in and we check it out. And we're like, this could actually work.
Yeah.
We could put a ring on the stage. We could pack this place out. Let's go.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'd already been said no to once, and when you get said no to, especially as an entrepreneur,
sure.
If you're committed, you don't let that stop you. But there is still some self-doubt, some pain, some scars from being said no to. Yeah. So having someone much older than me that had been an entrepreneur, that had started a charity, that was so charismatic and someone that I looked up to, say, this is doable, and not just doable, let's do it.
Right. And you're going to do it. And you're going to do it.
And it meant the world to me. And so that was really the first little like push of momentum that led to that first Bulldog Brawl event, which would later evolve into Brawl for a Cause.
Yeah. And just one takeaway. So living in the world of leadership is kind of like, what's the takeaway? So one thing I would say is a big fear that we all have is just fear of the unknown, right? And so oftentimes if we don't know something, we don't do something, right? And I always like to say, all right, well, you're never going to be ready, but I want you to remember 3 things. If we do this, is it final, is it fatal, or is it forever? And chances are it's never those 3. Yeah. Like, even if we get a small no now, it's not a final decision. Is it fatal? Are we going to die from it? No, we're not going to die. And is this thing forever? No, we can try it, we can pivot, we can move, and we can move on. But is it final, fatal, or forever? And chances are it's none of those. So take the first step. Take the first step. And sometimes you're right. You just need someone that's been down the path a little bit older, or maybe been there and seen a few things. But I have always been a person that loves to empower people when I see that their heart's in the right place, they have big vision, and they just need that little bit of kick. And not only you freaking smashed down the damn door. Like you like it went from a small event in Athens that like reunited an organization, to like taking it to a big city in Atlanta, to taking it to the largest brand new stadium in America, to now the World Congress Center. Like, this thing has exploded, but it started with taking the first step. And so for anyone out there that's just thinking about trying something new, I urge you to take the first step and just see what happens.
Amen. And like a lot of people see, like, take the Mercedes-Benz Stadium event, for example. A lot of people heard about Brawl for a Cause for the first time because of that big event, right?
Sure.
So that perception of overnight success, like, where did this come from? It's just automatically successful. Like, who's this guy?
Right.
Like, it never happens.
Ever.
You don't see the 6 years of raising dozens of dollars for charity through college kids that sharpen the teeth and refine the model to get to the point where we could go on the field.
Right.
And all the mentors and volunteers and all the people along the way that help prop up that organization, that model, that success.
Right.
And so that's so important for people to understand. And I think it's a theme that we'll come back to, where you see this glimmering top of the pyramid, this top of the iceberg, but there's so much underneath that is making that thing float, making that thing prop up. So now, from the very beginning, you've been a part of this. Now you're chairman of the board of Brawl for a Cause. Yeah. Come to a lot of events. You bring a lot of opportunities into the organization. You're a great spokesperson for it, which I really appreciate. And we have an event coming up, which will be wow. Otherwise,
it definitely will be wow.
Not worth doing, of course. So, in your experience, when you think back on Brawl for a Cause, why do you think people gravitate towards this? Why did you gravitate towards hero? Why did someone like Sam Koenigsberg gravitate towards House of Cherith? What is it in people that I guess are what makes them drawn to a cause?
Yeah, I mean, so one word, gratitude. Mm-hmm. I think that when we get beyond ourselves, life becomes better. And so, and we all know this, right? Like you can experiences are better than things, right? And so you've created a magnetic experience, but the cause is greater than ourselves. And so I think that's the recipe for like insane success. Because success, yes, you feel like a hero, a champion because you're brawling for something you believe in, but it's for a cause, right? And I think the beauty of Brawl for a Cause is every single person out there is raising money for their favorite charity. Every single person out there is fighting for what they believe in. Every single person out there is willing to take a punch in the face to do something beyond themselves. And I think my entire life, and yours as well, we've realized, like, listen, the glitz and the glam is fantastic, and I love it. And I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm probably going to always dress ridiculous and say things that are wow and upsetting to a few. But at the end of the day, like, it points back to, like, the North Star, right? And if the North Star can be bigger than yourself, in a place of gratitude and serving others and giving back. And whether that's writing a check or getting in the ring or creating a platform for others to do that, or just using your voice to let other people come into the organization, what you've created has been such an example of an experience, a magical experience, matched with something greater than ourselves. And so when Sam gets in the ring and fights for City of Refuge, right? And other people are fighting for domestic, to preventing domestic violence, or all of these causes. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars have been raised. I think your lifetime goal is to give away $1 billion with a B, $1 billion with a B. And how amazing is that, right? Because I think in a small way, I think one of the reasons we've been successful in 3 companies now. So 3 different companies I've been a part of have all now become 7-figure organizations. So raise over $1 million, do $1 million in revenue. Because why? Because one is going to programs for kids born into this world by no fault of their own. One is giving people a platform to serve in another country and see things for the very first time. One is helping organizations pour their values into supporting communities at a greater level. So it's always been a theme of my life, and I think when I saw that in you, it's like, how do I latch on? And a great communicator, Andy Stanley, says, here's what I know about things. He goes, I can't guarantee that I can fill up your cup, but I can promise that I can pour out all of mine. And he's like, I just want to pour out, pour out, pour out. And the more you pour out, the more cups you end up filling up, and the better life becomes.
It's beautiful.
So
it's a great message.
Thanks.
So one thing I want to talk about, again, in general, before we dive back into your story, is directly related to both of our stories, which was when we were young, we decided to go into philanthropy. Oh. And when I was growing up, I remember the word that or the day that I learned the word philanthropist. Mm. And it was the same day I learned entrepreneur.
Yeah, cool.
It was in 4th grade, and we were learning about Rockefeller and Vanderbilt and all these big-time oil tycoon type people sure. that made all this money when there was this oil boom, kind of like today when there's this internet boom, right? They made all this money, and then they pivoted. Like halfway through life, they're like, we can't make any more money, and if we do, it doesn't really matter. So we're gonna start giving it away, and they went from entrepreneurs to philanthropists. Yeah. So in my mind, that was the model. It's like, hey, start a company, make all this money, and then give it all away. Right. And like that's how you live life. That's how you live a successful life, and people will study you in 4th grade. Right. And somewhere along the way, that shifted in my mind. I was like, if that's the end goal, if that's what they decide to dedicate the rest of their lives to, and that's when they're most happy, and that's what they get so much attention for, and all these things. Right. Why not start doing that now? Like, do I really need to become a centimillionaire before I start pouring in other people? Sure. And I know that the same thing is true in you. Is like you went and you were like you flirted with the idea of doing that investment banking, making a pile of money, and going that route, but something in you brought you back to that serving, that giving mindset. And I think more young people just need to know that that's possible, that you don't have to come from money. I came from a middle-class family. You came from a middle-class family. Like it doesn't have to be you're coming from a place of wealth or privilege in order to help others. Correct. And so can you talk a little bit about, we see the top of the pyramid, the GG worldwide, the wow, the glitz and the glamour, but what does the rest of that iceberg look like? How did you grow up? What kind of fears and sacrifices do you make along the way to get to where you are? Yeah, so grew up with 2 amazing parents that they got divorced when I was 5, but they remained friends for the rest of my life and have great stories about both. But the first part of my life grew up with my mom. So, my mom never went to college, and grew up, and my mom's never made she's always kind of been an hourly employee, so never made 6 figures, never made probably more than $50,000 a year. But amazing woman who believed in her kids. Shout out to Fran G. Fran G, baby, Fran G. Follow her. She's got about 15 friends on Instagram, looking to pass 20. If you guys could help her out. Literally, my mom's Instagram is Fran G Loves Life. Yeah. And that's her, right? Totally. And she just poured into her kids. And I remember like it was yesterday, the shittiest Christmas I ever had in my life. 8 years old. It's in my book. My mom, so you're so excited, like you're thinking you're gonna get a Nintendo game or action figures or something fantastic. I got a globe. A globe. No 8-year-old wants a globe ever. And my mom I think she was crying because I was crying, and I'm like, either you suck or Santa sucks, but somebody sucks here. and I think she shifted it to Santa, and like, anyways, she's like, no. I was like, this is so sad. But
But it was probably one of the best gifts I ever ended up getting because my mom said, we don't have enough money right now. And we've never really taken a family vacation. We've never been outside the country. I didn't have a passport. She goes, but one day you're going to go to all these countries. You're going to go to all these countries. She's like, I want you to think about that. And she instilled this crazy belief in me that one day I'd be able to do this. And I remember, probably I'm too old, but if anyone remembers, back in the day, there used to be this thing called Encyclopedia Britannica, which these people would come knock on your door and try to sell you 26 volumes of A through Z about all the things in the world. And it's like $15 bazillion that they're trying to sell for. Of course, my mom buys it, like on credit that we don't have. There's no money in the bank. And she's like, now, every place you spin around the globe and you look up, you can now open up in your encyclopedia. Again, like the second worst gift of all time. But my mom just believed in us. And I have an amazing younger brother named Jeff. And she just said, one day, you guys, like, I don't know how it's going to happen because we don't have the money, but you're going to travel and you're going to see and you're going to explore and you're going to use it for other people. And you're going to give back. And I'm like, what the heck does that mean, Mom? Like, again, I'm still into like action figures and like Nintendo games. And she's talking about traveling the world and like inspiring others. Well, what was funny was when I sat there in Hong Kong, my first like real job, I watched my boss miss he and his wife's anniversary and his 4-year-old daughter's birthday in the same summer. And I'm smart enough to have mentors that say the people that you surround yourself with, the 5 people, become who you become, the people ahead of you become who you become, the boss you start to look like in the future. And I go, is that the future that I want to aim for? Is that the future that I want? Do I want to be that type of husband and that type of father? No. I want to be like the best husband and an amazing father. And I remember when that year was over, I walked in and I was done. Because I don't want to be that. And some people can, and you can do great things with your money, but for me, family is always so important. My mom instilled that early, but here's what people don't see. You see the glitz and the glam and the Instagram and the, raising millions of dollars. You know what? I lived at home with my dad till I was 30 years old. 30. So from 24 to 30, I moved back in. We made no money. First year out of college. So I was student body president at UGA, right? Had done a job in investment banking. Come back, started charity for kids with HIV and AIDS with another guy, Ryan Gambala, great dude. We're like, all right, well, there's no money. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to pay ourselves $500 a month. That's $6,000. Let's play this forward. Second year, we paid ourselves $1,000 a month, $12,000. Third year, we doubled it to 24. So I'm 3 years out of college, and let's do the quick math. That's 18 and 24. So basically, I'd made almost no money. So the first 2 years out of college, the federal poverty level in the United States of America is $18,800, where you can literally sign up and get food stamps. And 2 years out of college, a student body president, having gone to Hong Kong and Kenya, back, I was living at home, making less than federal poverty level, and could have gone and gotten food stamps. But if your why is great enough, that shit doesn't matter. And I love dressing up and going out and beautiful women and fun events and galas. I remember a woman here in Atlanta. She was on the news, and I got to be her date, and she was getting honored at like one of the fancy hotels downtown. I had an old school 1994 Saturn where the chandelier, I called it a chandelier. The light was broken and dangling down. I had to come up with something, right, just to get a date these days. And I remember my Saturn. This is a true story. We rolled up, and she was getting honored. I was in my tuxedo. She was in a ball gown. And the concierge, the guy that comes over, goes to open her door, and the entire door handle breaks off. My car door breaks off on a date where she was getting honored in Atlanta. I literally had to open my door. She had to climb over, get out, and I wanted to cry and go home. That's the stuff that doesn't make Instagram. Those are the true stories that happen when you're just in it, like you're eating it. It's like Gary V, clouds and dirt, clouds and dirt. I ate dirt for so long, for 10 years, to now be able to sit here with a cool suit and a tie and talk to you on a podcast. But there were the days when it was low, man. Like no money. After that date, I didn't want to even go out with another woman for a while until I could like at least scrape together a few cash to put back on the door handle. That's so embarrassing. But that's reality. That's reality. But if your why is strong enough, you'll keep going. And I think that's what Brawl for a Cause is about. I think that's what Hero for Children was about, Global Lead is about, ADDO is now about. If the why is strong enough, you'll keep going.
That North Star is so important.
Huge.
So in those moments when you're scared or you're embarrassed or whatever, how do you talk to yourself? Are you tapping into that why? Or are you like, you need to change, to abandon ship, like go get that investment banking job back? Like what's going on in your head in those moments? Because the only person you spend your entire life with is yourself. Sure. And the person that you talk to the most, disclaimer here, everyone talks to themselves.
Of course, 100%.
Crazy, you
100%,
need to talk to yourself. 100%. You need to have those mirror moments where you're looking yourself in the eye and you're like, hey, it's go time. Right. What do you say to yourself when you're scared?
Yeah, so I look at the long view of life. And so I don't worry about the moment. I say, hey, long view of life. We're going to be here for a while. Like, what the hell do I want to be known for? And it's going to suck now. It's probably going to suck for the next year, maybe even suck for the next few years. But would I rather look back, if you had a bow and arrow and you just shot that thing to the very end of your life, like what do you want people to say? And so I freaking love this thing. I had a chance to go to Harvard for business school, do their executive program. And I didn't want to get a job on Wall Street. Hell with that. I've already seen that life. I didn't want to go work at McKinsey. I didn't want to do private equity. I didn't want to do any of these things. I literally went there to network and be myself, like a Southern guy with a little bit of a personality to just pour in and support others. And so what do I do? How do I talk to myself? I always remember this thing called the dash. And it's the most amazing thing ever. There's a poem that you can look up. But basically, it's the idea that on your tombstone, there are 2 dates and a dash. And the question becomes, what will you do with your dash? And so at Harvard, I had every single person fill this out. I took a picture of them. I had them put a piece of chalk next to all the crazy Goodwill Hunting stuff in the background. Had them sign their name and answer the question. And for me, my dash was this. And again, the question is, what will you do with your dash? I said, I want to live life out loud, bold, 10 seconds of insane courage at a time. Whether in the classroom or the boardroom, on my first date or 50th wedding anniversary, I want to stand up for the people I believe in, stand out for the causes I care about, and always be the reason behind her smile. Whoever she is, by the way.
Fran G, she's smiling a lot.
She's smiling, and I'm not married yet, and I'm not there yet, but I want to do that. I want to be home for family dinners. I want to be there for my wife and my kids. I want to always live life out loud, and I want everyone else to do the same. So if I, shoot that back, did I live a life that inspired people to do that? And even when I'm in the dirt eating it, and I'm not making the money, and I'm not where I want to be, most people aren't where they want to be. There's no timeline on this thing, right? My favorite freaking quote is the Gatsby quote. Like F. Scott Fitzgerald, it's like if you want to change something, change it. We're in this race. It doesn't matter. If you don't like it, you have the courage to try something else, right? I think it's at the end of the Benjamin Buttons movie. And it's just so amazing. It just fires me up that we can do whatever we want whenever we want if we have the courage to do it.
Courage. Courage led you to write a book.
It did.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about the book and why you wrote it? What was the spark?
Yeah.
Why did you decide to finally sit down, stop all this crazy travel and running a company and all this stuff? Why did you take time to yourself and actually put pen to paper?
So I think, there's these things called inciting incidents in life, and very much the hero's journey. Donald Miller talks a lot about this, in Story Brand, a book. But long story short, my dad and I, so we talked about Fran G, a most amazing mom ever. My dad was incredible. And my dad, through high school and college, I lived with my dad. And so I got to see him on both sides. And my dad, awesome man, worked super hard, but worked in the insurance business. And so literally sold insurance for 40 years. Nothing glamorous.
Think about his son, the riskiest human being on the planet.
My dad plays it so safe. I'm always saying yes. He's like, no, wait, this is ridiculous. So maybe it's the yin and the yang, right? So we had this, as you laugh, and people are probably laughing, my dad just always laughed at me as well. The funny, interesting thing was we always had a joke in our family that like, hey, at some point we're going to travel, we're going to do these experiences, we're going to have these father-son moments. And the joke became, all right, Dad, when you turn 50, we're going to do it. When you turn 55, when you turn 60, it's like, come on. He's like, when I retire, we're going to do all these things together. And I'm like, so excited. Like, I've lived a life of yes, he lived a life of wait. He finally retires after 40 years in the insurance business. So excited, we celebrate. 30 days later, he found out he has stage 4 cancer and a year left to live. And everything you think you know in life goes out the window. It's like all the successes you've had, the companies you've started, even you start to question, like, have I even done this thing right? Like, it's all just shattered, your self-confidence, like everything, the fears all come back, you know? I was such a confident human being. And then my dad, after 40 years, retires 30 days later. Finds out he has stage 4 cancer. And I was running the ADO organization with Kevin Scott. We had just signed a contract with Chick-fil-A, long-term, multi-year. It's every entrepreneur's dream. I go to the guy that was running marketing at Chick-fil-A, and I said, with all due respect, I know I was a part of the negotiation, but I was like, you get one mom, one dad. I'm going to have to take time away from our company, time away from Chick-fil-A, and I'm going to go live with my dad and take care of him. And whatever that means for this contract, I understand and I accept those terms and conditions, but I'm going to have to go do this for my dad. And this guy, David Salyers, he helped run marketing at Chick-fil-A. He goes, that is exactly why we hired you. He said, you go take care of your dad. We'll be here whenever you need to come back. And I love Chick-fil-A to this day, not because they're such an amazing company, which they are, because of the values that are real. They hit you right in the heart.
It's heart, man.
It's heart. And I moved in with my dad. I went through 10 rounds of chemo, 9 rounds of radiation. We finally decided together to come off all of that. And he said, we both know it's coming, but I promised you I'd do a trip with you. Let's do one last trip.
Where'd you take him?
So we went down to Havana, Cuba. I know you and I, we've been there as well. We went there as well. And the quick story is, my dad grew up as a car guy. He never had a fancy car, never had money for a car, but as you know, in Havana, all those cars are still down there from the 1950s when he grew up. And so long story short, we got a cherry red convertible, 1959 Chevrolet, his favorite car of all time. We got in the back, hair, like wind blowing through his hair, sunglasses on. He's dying of cancer. You're not supposed to smoke a cigar. We're like, screw it. We're smoking cigars, like having the greatest father-son moment of all time. And I had a chance to ask him a few questions. I said, Dad, what advice would you give to my kid, your future grandkid, even if you're not here on his first day of kindergarten? And he gave me some advice. And I go, what would you tell me are the keys to being a great father? Because I think you're like the best dad ever. And he gave me some advice. And then I'll never forget the last question I asked him. He just stopped me in my tracks. I go, Dad, what is your greatest accomplishment? And without even hesitating, he looks me straight in the eye and he goes, you. He goes, you are my greatest accomplishment. It was just like in Havana, like tears, just like his eyes, my eyes, in this old classic car, in the place frozen in time. And I said, I have got to capture the spirit of this moment to help other people face their fears, have insane courage, and do it now.
Not wait.
Not wait. Not wait. And so,
how convenient.
Funny enough, but in a very serious way, it's all about having an insane courage and doing it in the moment. And so I wrote this book called 10 Seconds of Insane Courage.
And people need to hear that message. They can't wait to that moment.
You'll never be ready.
That moment where it's like,
absolutely.
In the car,
in the van, absolutely. No.
Everyone, do yourself a favor. Get this book. Get that inspiration.
Right.
So that you don't have that moment.
100%.
Because as amazing as that moment is, as life defining as it is, it's painful too.
Oh, it's crushing. It's soul crushing. And here's what happens. So I did a lot of research on fear and the antidote to that, courage. Most people, we create these false time constraints, right? And those can be typically on a birthday, New Year's, I'll create a 30, 60, 90-day plan for it. No, now.
Just do it.
Now, just do it. Do not wait till 25 or 30. Don't wait till 40 or 50. Now. Don't wait till you're ready. You're never going to be ready. Now. Don't wait to, buy your freaking website. Literally write one blog. Call one friend. Get some new headshots to make you feel better about your life. Wear some happy socks on your feet. Wake up and do 9 push-ups. Drink a glass of water and freaking get going. Do something that's going to jolt you, change your mindset, reset you to just say yes to life. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to start saying yes to more things. You got to put together that accountability mirror and something on it that you want to do. And the thing that's going to happen is you're going to face these fears. Yep. And it's natural and it's normal, but it's not final, it's not fatal, it's not forever. You're going to live through it. But God, if you take that freaking bow and arrow and you hit it to the end of your life, don't you want to look back and say that you said you had a life of saying yes? And that's what this whole book's about.
So 10 seconds, why 10?
Yeah, so it honestly came from a friend of mine. She was actually breaking up with a boyfriend, to be honest. And we were having a breakfast one morning, and she's like, I feel like if I can just start the conversation, if I can just take that, if I just had these 10 seconds of insane courage to just start talking, the rest would happen. And she keeps going. I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I know it's a pivotal moment. You're breaking up with your boyfriend. I'm like, here to help out and listen. And I'm like, leadership hat comes on. I go, what did you say? She goes, I don't even remember what I said. I go, no, I remember what you said. You said 10 seconds of insane courage. Because I think things happen in the moment. And in the moment, you have that decision. And in that decision, it simply comes down to, are you going to choose courage or are you going to choose comfort? And life says, and brain says, and schemas from a long time ago says, choose comfort, choose comfort, choose comfort, choose comfort. And the legends, the people we remember, the people that make a difference, choose courage, choose courage, choose courage. And this whole thing is you don't have to choose courage forever. Choose courage now, in the moment. And then good things start happening. And it's, again, you're going to face these fears. The fear that I'm not good enough. I get it. I've not been good enough for a long time. The fear of failure. The fear of taking the first step. The fear of the unknown. The fear of letting go. But you're going to have to give up some things. My friend Kevin Scott wrote a book, and he talks about what are you going to have to give up to go up? What are you going to have to let go of to go up in life? What are the fears you're going to have to face? And they're real, and they're raw, and they're right in front of you. But damn it, you have a mirror every single morning when you wake up, and you can face those freaking fears in the face, and you can tackle these things one step at a time. And this book, I think, can give you the jolt of energy and some tactics to get you going again if you've ever felt stuck.
And I know you share a lot of your stories in this book, and those are great models for how you've taken on these fears.
Right.
And I know there's some other stories too. So you've taken some stories from some well-known people and applied them to the same fears. Can you talk about?
Yeah. So my publisher said, hey, here's the deal. If you're going to write a book on insane courage, who's the most insane person ever that you would love to endorse this book? And then what's the most insane thing we can do to promote it? So those are two insanely different stories. But I just freaking love The Rock. I think The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is the biggest badass ever. He is inspiring, encouraging. He just gets after it. And he is the epitome of what I think of when I think of insane courage, right? So the guy, if you probably know his story, but the highest paid, movie actor right now. So, but he went from a football player at the University of Miami to a wrestler, comes from a family of wrestlers, to now an action movie star. And I said, I have no way to get to The Rock, zero. And the publisher said, well, if you're going to put it out there, you're going to figure it out. And I go, how in the world could I ever reach The Rock? What's the most insane thing ever? So let's go back in the timeline from this interview, from this story. 15 years earlier, I spent a year in Kenya at an orphanage and created a charity for kids with HIV and AIDS. My first board member was a man named Mark Richt. Mark Richt was the head football coach.
Heard of him.
Okay, heard of him. Mark Richt, head football coach, University of Georgia, went on to become the head football coach at
Miami.
The University of Miami. So I said, hey, Coach Rick knows me. He's known me for 15 years. He'll at least vouch for me. Let's put together a package, send it to the Rock's crew, and mention that as well. And the Rock's story is in this book because the Rock's story, it comes from not the glitz and the glam on the $124 million that he made last year. It started from $7 in his wallet. The Rock has a company called $7 Productions because when he got cut from playing football, he had a back injury and no one wanted him. He had a taxi cab pull up. He pulled out his wallet and he had a 5 and 2 ones. Not even enough money for the taxi. The taxi leaves because he can't even pay for it to get a ride home. And he promises himself in that moment, with $7 to his name, that if he ever made it in life, he's going to create a company called $7 Productions because he knew that from $7 he made it somewhere. And he did. And I write about that story and I sent him this package and he's super close with his father. And I told him about how I wrote this book in honor of my dad and that no one knows who Garrett Gravesen is, and that's fine. But if The Rock endorses this and I go around the world, people will read the book and people will get inspired and they'll change their life. And his story's in here. But it would take one giant leap of faith and one huge ask of insane courage. And after months and months and months and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, the freaking Rock, Dwayne Johnson, endorsed the book. Which is the most insane thing of all time.
And it's on the other side of that 10 seconds of insane courage. It's on the other side of that discomfort zone, that getting outside of where you normally operate and going after the largest physically and figuratively action movie star on the planet. Sure. And he's on the back of your book now.
Right. Which is
amazing.
And anyone can do that, right? But are we going to have the insane courage? Are we going to choose courage or comfort? Comfort is, there's a bunch of people that can endorse a book. It's easy. I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm not going to worry about it.
Maybe I'll turn on Netflix instead.
Right. Maybe. Or are you going to choose courage? Are you going to be one of those legends that God put you on this planet, uniquely designed, and you have something to give the world? Whoever is listening right now, you are uniquely designed to make a difference and make a dent in this universe, Steve Jobs style. But are you willing to just take that first step, face that unknown, face those fears? And the thing is, we all have fears. I wrote a book on fear and I have fears. None of it's easy. It's just taking this first step, that 10 seconds of insane courage to do those small things.
Love it. I love it. So you mentioned something about going around the world. So you recently got back from the book tour for 10 Seconds of Insane Courage.
Right.
Can you tell me about that journey?
Yeah, and so again, I want to be careful here. So 15 years of hard work, right? So starting 3 companies.
Well, living with your dad.
Living with my dad, making no money, driving in a Saturn, right? And so this part will be the tip of the iceberg that people see and is great for Instagram. Mm-hmm. It's the 15 years of eating dirt that most people don't ever see, right? And so I just said, hey, I have just worked my tail off trying to start these 3 different organizations that now are running. The first one, we had a great executive director. The second one's still running. Each one making over, raising millions of dollars, creating millions in revenue, and creating millions with companies. Oh my gosh. My dad passes away. I want to write this book. I actually do it. The Rock endorses it. This is insane. And my publisher says, don't play small with this book. You're a guy that loves to travel, go around the world. You're a guy that went to Antarctica on his 30th birthday. My luggage got lost. Thank God I packed a tuxedo in my carry-on just to look like the penguins. This is a true story. My luggage got freaking lost. So for 10 days in the ship in Antarctica on the ice with the penguins, I wore a tuxedo around. So I became known as this tuxedo guy that now I'm like, well, hell, I might as well pack it in my carry-on everywhere since. So I said, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I was like, I am going to go on a worldwide book tour. Do I know how to start a nonprofit? No. Do I know how to become a lecturer and a professor? No. Do I know how to start an organization to do leadership for a huge company? Nope. Don't know how to write a book? Nope. Well, I sure as hell don't know how to do a book tour either, but we're going to figure it out. So in my mind, the most insane thing I could do, people always say, hey, if you could take a year off, what would you do? Most people say travel, but what does that mean? I tell my publisher, not only am I going to travel, but I'm going to go to 52 countries in 52 weeks. I'm going to do one country every week for an entire year, and I'm going to go share this message of facing your fears, having insane courage, and listening to people from around the world that have done it. And he's like, you are freaking insane. And so I did. So I set off on this journey. And listen, was it fun? Absolutely. I ended up in, Ireland for St. Patrick's Day and Thailand for a full moon party. And India for some crazy guy that did chess boxing named Matt Thomas, who I went to Party City, and Chris was there, and we had a top hat and an American flag, and we had like 3 people in our corner, and like 250 Indian people, because it was in Calcutta, India. And Matt Thomas brought home the crown or the trophy on behalf of the United States of America. And I rerouted my book tour because I wanted to be there. Because like I think above all else, places are places and they're great. But at the end of the day, people are like what make places amazing. And the more conversations you have with locals or amazing people in these countries. And I was like, there's no way in heck that I'm going to travel around the world and not be there for your big moment to become the chess boxing champion of the world.
Which meant the world to me. And you know, hype man of the century with that big top hat, American flag top hat. I swear, you were louder than the 250 Indians in the other corner that were cheering for their champion. You know, it was an amazing moment, and I was honored to be a part of one of the stops on the 10 Seconds of Insane Courage book tour.
Yes.
That was my one of my moments of 10 Seconds of Insane Courage.
Oh.
So it was, and yeah, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
But so you do this 52 and 52, the 52 countries, 52 weeks.
Right.
What did you take back from that? What did you learn? Like
Yeah.
what was it just for the book promo, or was there something more to it?
Yeah, and I had a chance to interview a lot of people, and so whether that becomes another book or what I really would love to do is create kind of this whole 1 year of yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like hey, like 52 ways to have insane courage. Like what would that look like each week? Every time you wake up. Like what would that look like in a 10-second challenge? What would that look like? Because I love standing on stage and inspiring people is great, but I love leaving people with something they can do. Mm-hmm. So it's inspiration and application. It's inspiration and action. And so I just had a chance to really sit down and talk with people. And what I found fascinating is that every single person faces fear. We all have anxiety, and we face loneliness, and there's bouts of depression, and we don't know what we're doing. And I'm like, damn, in a weird way, like that feels good because I'm right there with you. Like people look at the resume, or they see the travel or the Harvard or the book, and it's like, no. Like let's level set here. Like that's 15 years of eating dirt and having door handles fall off. And like embarrassing dates and embarrassing moments and living at home and like not knowing what you're doing. And it's like only to maybe get to a point where I'm figuring it out. Maybe. And I don't have this figured out. And I go, but maybe people probably around the world, I'm sure they do, right? Like let's go to some world capitals like, Bangkok and, South Africa and, Rio and, the big capitals in Europe and Zurich. And no, they don't have anything figured out. We are all one day at a time trying to do the absolute best we can around the world. And I just thought that, maybe if I go to enough places, there's someone's got me. No. And from a guy who's literally, I think the country counts at 133 right now, which is basically almost every country in the world except for the 54 in Africa. And I've been to about half of those. Every single person faces loneliness. So if you're lonely right now and you don't know what to do, join me and everybody else, right?
Let's be lonely
Let's
together.
just all be lonely together. But and anxiety is real, and depression is real, and not knowing what you're doing is real, and it can lead to some bad stuff or you get in some dark places. But know that there are people out there that love you and care about you. And I'll tell you this, for the people listening, it's oftentimes the strongest people that are putting on the most masks. It's the people you think have got it all figured out that oftentimes don't at all. So, one action I'm like, call your strongest friend because they may be the one that needs it the most, and never underestimate the power of just picking up the phone and calling somebody or shooting a quick text message telling somebody that you care. And it may even be your parents. They may need to be the ones that you just pick up, and if you're lucky enough to still have mom and dad, give them a quick thank you because you never know what they're going through as well. So I think all around the world, I realize how similar we are and how we're all just still trying to figure this thing out.
Such a powerful message. And I love what you say. I love when you say some of the strongest people wear the most masks. It's something, I know I've worn a lot of masks in my life. There's a lot of there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of insecurity in all of us, and I love pouring that kind of energy into challenges and dealing with things and directing it into a positive way, but it doesn't always happen like that.
No.
And one thing that I'm curious about, you look at your Instagram, you look at these companies you started, you look and you have this massive persona and all this energy, and you've done so much in your life. It's easy for someone to look at that and be like, that can't be me, and this is just someone on the tip of an iceberg. What masks have you put on in your life, and it could be from the past or it could be right now? What are you scared of? What do you struggle with?
Yeah, and let's just start from the beginning. So imposter syndrome is real.
Yeah.
And so for a quick psychological research topic that basically says, when in fact you're the best at what you should be doing, you feel the worst about yourself and that you're not good enough. So I don't really know if I'm a good entrepreneur at all. People are like, are you out of your mind? You've done it? I'm like, no, like the fear that I'm not good enough, 100, I do public speaking for a living. I wonder if I connect and communicate with people. Swear to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if this book's any good. I don't know that, so I went to Tony Robbins recently, and he asked this guy who's insanely successful CEO, and he goes, so do you think you're a success? And he's like, no. And he's like, no, like the humble brags, like let's put that up. Like, he goes, no, I don't think I'm a success. And he's like, let's just take, like, you mean like financially? He's like, you make $35 million a year. He's like, yeah, but that's after like stocks and bonuses. What? He's like, what about your family? He's like, I know your wife and your kids. He's like, surely you feel success with your family. He's like, no, because I haven't been there for all of my kids' defining moments. He's like, okay. He's like, well, what about you're in great shape? I know you run marathons. He's like, yeah, but he's like, I need 8% body fat and I'm at 9 right now. So I know I'm not even successful there. And Tony Robbins says this thing. He's like, we have created this bullshit in our minds. These like mental mindsets, these schemas in psychology that you call them, that are constructs from a very early age of what we think success is. So I grew up without money. So I had to overcompensate with creativity or clothing. Not because they were rich clothes or Tom Ford clothes, because they were just the most fun and colorful clothes I could find or wear, because we didn't have anything. And so imposter syndrome is real. Let's just cut the bullshit. I overcompensate, let's get real. Because at an early age, I did not have enough. Yeah. And that is no fault to my mom or my dad. They did the absolute best they could do. And so what I'm trying to do now is just be insanely vulnerable and say, listen, from a guy that has done a bunch of stuff, still feels like he hasn't done enough, still fears the unknown, still fears that maybe this whole thing is a mask and I don't know what I'm doing, still faces imposter syndrome. And if I face it, I'm going to probably guess that you faced it. And if we're all facing this together, we can at least have an honest conversation about it.
Let's talk about it. There's power in acknowledging things that exist, not just burying them down in our subconscious so that it can bubble up every once in a while and we get scared of it and run away. Yeah. Like, we need to talk about these things. We need to talk about imposter syndrome. We need to talk about not feeling good enough.
Yeah.
We need to talk about fear, which is why he wrote this book.
100%.
Fear can be your worst enemy. It can hold you back from all your dreams, or it can be your fuel.
Oh, 100%.
It can propel you to this whole nother realm where you're doing 52 countries in 52 weeks.
Right.
Or you're boxing for Team USA, chess boxing for Team USA.
Of course.
All these things that people look at and are like, how did that happen? It started with one decision. One decision in that little time window when you felt that fear bubble up and you're like, fuck that fear.
Right.
I want to like lean into this. I want to do something different. I want to not respond the way I've responded every other time this has come up.
Amen.
Because if there's one thing I've learned about life, things come up in cycles. Like you're gonna the same fear that held you back last time, you're gonna get to encounter again, and that's a blessing because what it tells you is that that window of opportunity, even though it closed once,
Right.
that window's going to prop open again.
Right.
You're going to be able to dive through there if you really want to.
Right.
The Rock says there's always another bus coming.
Yeah.
There's always another. You stand at that stop long enough, you might not want to get on that one going to New York, but here's one to LA, or here's one to Atlanta, or whatever. You can always hop on another one. So when that cycle repeats itself, when you feel that imposter syndrome coming up again, it's like, I don't belong in this room, you can make the decision to own it and be like, here I am. I'm going to be all the way in this room. I'm going to own this room. I'm going to be the person that I want to be.
Right.
And it might not be right now,
Right.
but that fake it till you make it mentality, I have mixed feelings about that. But like in that moment, when you feel like an imposter,
Right.
you can just step into the skin of the person you want to be.
Yeah, and in that moment, you choose courage or comfort.
Yep.
And you better sure as hell choose courage.
Yeah.
Because your future life is waiting for you to choose that and see which path it'll take you.
And the beautiful thing about humanity and about us and about everyone listening is we're either getting better or we're getting worse. Mm-hmm. And when, in my mind, when you choose courage, it's opening up the space, it's opening up the potential to improve.
Yeah.
When you choose comfort, it's settling back into something that you're already doing,
Right.
that you're already comfortable with.
Right.
And you can see that as stagnation or plateauing.
Right.
What I see it as is missing out on potential to improve, which is not improvement, which is getting worse.
Right.
So when you have those little micro moments, it can be something as simple as asking someone their name in line for coffee.
100%.
It's just starting a conversation. You never know where that conversation is going to lead. My version of the Saturn story with the old car is for 18 months, I didn't have a car. I did Uber pools everywhere. And I can't tell you how many conversations, how many people changed my life over and over again in those Uber pool experiences.
Yeah.
Just because instead of looking at my phone and scrolling through a feed,
Right.
started a conversation.
Right.
And little moments like that matter. And that's why I love your book is those there are so many, I wish I could do the mental math. There are so many 10-second windows in a day for you to maximize.
Exactly.
And it's just inciting that courage inside you and striking while the iron's hot. And one of those little 10-second windows can change your life.
100%. Sold. I love it. You're right.
So here we are now. You wrote this book. You took a lap around the world.
Yeah.
What's next for you? Do you know?
I don't, and I think that's okay. And isn't it nice?
How scary is that though?
Super scary.
What's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know.
I don't know. We figure it out, right? I mean, but again, I think that I'm passionate about creating platforms that serve other people. I think that every company on earth, like leading with insane courage is important. Innovating with insane courage is important. Selling with insane courage is important. Like I want to take these concepts and I want to push them into society, And I think you can do it in the moment, in 10 seconds. It's an on-ramp. And you get better and you build the reps, you get stronger with it. It's just like working out, right? What do I know about working out? You know about working out, but you got to get the reps, but there's got to be an on-ramp. And the on-ramp is courage, right? Like companies want people to speak up and talk about what they believe in. They want you to bring your best self to work. They want you to take time off and travel, see and explore, and bring those things back. And I think what I'm going to be able to do, hopefully, is take all these experiences, a lifetime of starting companies and a world journey, 52 countries in 52 weeks, and I just want to continue to share that content with the world. And wherever that lands or whatever that looks like or whatever that means, I'm open to it. And yes, of course it's scary, right? But I love the idea of like speaking. I love the idea of consulting. I love the idea of creating. But I think that the more we can push this idea of facing fear, having courage, taking the first step, companies don't want to sit in the status quo. They don't want, the only insurance against irrelevance is innovation. And I think all of that starts with insane courage. So I love speaking, I love talking, I love sharing, but I love doing it for something that's bigger than myself, which is getting people out of their comfort zone, out of the status quo, kicking ass, getting unstuck, and living the life that they're meant to live.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So we'll have to have you back when that next chapter comes together.
Sure.
And I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your stories. We end every episode with gratitude. And so I really appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you.
I appreciate Friendly Human for giving us the space. I appreciate Chris for setting up these cameras and making all the technical magic happen so that we can share it with everyone. I appreciate Sweetfish for doing all the audio stuff, uploading, giving us the links to be able to listen. Definitely appreciate the beginning of our story together, because I don't think we'd be sitting at this table with this platform changing the lives that we're changing without the 10 seconds of the same courage to call out a founder or to take a kid out to dinner.
Yeah.
So thanks for inspiring me.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you'd like to thank?
So many people, but first I want to say thank you for even giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about this message and story. I'm so proud of you and what you're doing and what you're creating and the impact in the lives you're creating. Nothing happens individually. So Hero, I had a co-founder, a guy named Ryan Gambala. Global Lead, I had a group of 4 people, Robbie, Courtney, Kevin, Scott, and then Kevin and I started Addo together. So don't think anything is just a one-person thing. It never is. And if they say it is, they're lying to you. Want to thank Chris. He was there in India with us, and he's helping film today. My mom and my dad, I think, are just incredible people, even though my dad's not here with us, but I know hopefully still trying to make him proud.
He's living
And yeah, thank you. And my brother and his wife, I think, are just incredible people. Family matters. I would say one thing, a challenge. Take your phone out, randomly scroll through it, and find a few people that you can text today to just tell them that you care and how thankful you are for them.
It's a great call to action. It's a great challenge.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that as soon as we finish. That's a great idea. And how can people stay in touch with you? How can they follow your journey? How can they consume this inspirational, courageous kind of content? Where can they find it?
I love it. Yeah, so Instagram's easy. So just GG Worldwide. So GG Worldwide. The book is called 10 Seconds of Insane Courage. And I'm about to put together kind of a 10-second challenge that'll be available on my website coming up soon. And that's just GarrettGravesen.com. Again, GarrettGravesen.com to find out more.
Gravesen.
That's right. So the SEN always confuses, but SEN at the end. So looking forward to that. Thanks for having me on the show.
Cool.
Really proud of you.
Let's do it. We did it.
Nice.